All right, I'm here with Tim Brooks, as promised. We're at the Thompson house in the beautiful community of East Liverpool, Ohio. We're going to give you a little tour, and then we're going to tell you about what he and Jennifer and the crew have planned for you coming up next month. But we are sitting in what? Is this the kitchen or is that the kitchen? What is this?
This is the kitchen.
It is the kitchen.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about this house and how this whole thing came to be and your journey many, many years ago. And as I said earlier today, and I've said a couple of times on these social media blogs recently, it was about 30 years ago when I was working at a radio station here in town. And the late, great, my mentor, Frank Mangano, who passed away in the mid-90s, if it wasn't for Mr. Mangano, I would have never had a career and never had the legacy that I've been able to have at the world's first radio station, KDKA Radio. So much love to that family and to him. But we came here, and it was one of the most incredible days of my life. And even though it was a visual thing for me, and it was theater of the mind for people watching on radio, it's a day I'll never forget. So I'm really honored to be here. So tell me about this house, its legacy, and how you got plugged in.
Just being in the right place at the wrong time, I guess. This house was built by one of our local pottery barons, if you will. He had started his own pottery in the late 1860s after a very brief service in the Civil War. And he was well set family-wise. He had a well-to-do father who was in the dry goods business. He had a brother that was in the pottery business, and he had another brother who was a composer and a seller of musical instruments. So there was a lot of money in the Thompson family. And he decided that he would get into the pottery business, and within 7 years of that, he said, time to build a house. And they built a house that even at the time it was under construction, one of the local newspapers would put these little fillers in and say, when it's done, C.C. Thompson will have one of the finest homes in the city. And they alternated between calling him C.C. and Cash, because his name was Cassius. And throughout the year, they had, you know, the stonemasons are laying up the basement, and you know, the bricklayers are at work, and it was a big project for East Liverpool. And
there were no power tools either, so they did it 1 hour at a time for sure. All right, we're going to take a little tour, but also we're going to tell you about a very special event coming up next month. This has been a labor of love for you, hasn't it, sir?
It has. It has.
I got to tell you, it's been so long since I've been here, and I only had a brief walkthrough from the front door to the hallway to this kitchen, but just the magic just continues to unfold, and we're going to show you some of that right now.
All right, you are looking at the what we call the East Parlor of the C.C. Thompson house. This was one of the middle projects on the house. We've been working on the house since the mid-'80s. We have wallpapered almost every room in the house. We've restored, we've stripped furniture and shutters. We've tried to, you know, keep the stuff that was worth keeping, and maybe get replacement items for things that weren't salvageable. Some of the furniture that we have in here is reproduction, but a lot of it belonged to the Thompsons themselves. This is the ghosts are making the light fixture move. There's Cassius himself as a young man. A grandfather clock that belonged to Cassius, a portrait of his father, Josiah Thompson, as a young man, an original marble mantle from 1876, a souvenir mirror that the son of Cassius would have purchased on one of his many, many trips to Europe over the years. Almost all of the wall hangings in here are items that the family had, or pictures of scenes in East Liverpool that are no longer, for the most part, in existence. Moving into the dining room, of course, you move past the sliding pocket doors. Every piece of furniture in the dining room is original to the Thompson family that was here in the house. We've rearranged it a little bit, but including one thing that we found elsewhere, which is a giant teapot from the Columbian Exposition of 1893 that was made at the Thompson Pottery. And actually, if the Thompsons were to walk back in here today, they would say, oh, I like what you've done with some of this. At least I hope so.
We're going to sit down and tell you a little bit more about what they're doing next month, and you're definitely going to want to help up, step up, and support the East Liverpool Historical Society and this great cause that is the Thompson House in the heart of this great community. That's next with your Pratte Pack. Stay with us. This is when they used to make things, folks, and you got your money's worth. This is incredible stuff. You know, so much generosity, Tim. People have stepped up and basically donated stuff to you and obviously helped with the cash to keep this thing going. And we're going to talk about that in a moment, what you're doing next month. But talk about generosity and how much it's meant as far as the gift giving from people in this community and around the country.
It's been tremendous. I mean, I just showed you a few minutes ago a huge Hans Hacker painting that was sent to us from Washington State when the owner passed away, and the widow wanted it here, wanted it back in East Liverpool. We have received items at various times. You know, I was primarily a probate attorney during my career, and there were people would contact me, even if they weren't clients, and say, well, you know, Grandma died, but she always wanted something of hers to be put in the Thompson house. And you know, if at all possible, we take it and you know, put it in the Thompson house if it's not too ridiculous. And we've gotten some beautiful things. Beautiful things. You
have. Now, speaking of beautiful, this is going to be a labor of love next month, but he's going to do all the heavy lifting. You're actually going to get a sleeping bag. You're going to get a flashlight. And good luck, we're all counting on you. He is going to be doing something to give you an opportunity to help pay it forward, to keep the lights on in the Thompson house for generations to come. So tell the folks, look right into that lens and tell them what you're going to be doing.
It wasn't my idea.
It was all Jennifer's idea.
It was Jennifer's idea. Somebody had, well, Jennifer suggested that she was fond of the movie The Ghost and Mr. Chicken, which I had seen when I was very young.
That goes to show you how old we both are.
And so I saw it at the drive-in, as I recall. But anyway, she said that was one of her favorite movies. And then the gears started engaging. She goes, we should show that at the Thompson house. And then we should get somebody to spend the night there. And gee, I wonder who that would be. And of course, it ended up that I was selected for that. And we've been I guess that's called marketing. We've been marketing the concept of people, you know, encouraging this and donating money so that that I will spend the night in the Thompson house. And what makes it really kind of interesting is that we did determine that one of the Thompson children, a 3-year-old daughter, died literally within days of them moving into this house in December of 1876, and she died on New Year's Eve. We found a photograph in a trunk up in the attic that literally has to be her, just has to be her, because it was preserved with the other family photographs, newspapers with obituaries of family members, over the years, there have been people that toured through the house that claimed, you know, some clairvoyant abilities. Yes, I remember when Joan Witt was living, and
the best.
She was wonderful. She had somebody in the house that was allegedly so gifted, and the first thing this person did is look around and said, "They're here."
Well, you'll be here. I won't. Anyway, the Ghost and Mr. Chicken, of course, he spends the night in a mansion similar to this. But, you know, Don Knotts went to West Virginia University, did an incredible animated film to this day for the technology of the time. I mean, you look at Disney and Pixar today, what they're doing. But when he did The Incredible Mr. Limpet, it was absolutely a flat-out phenomenal movie. He had a great run on the Andy Griffith Show, but this guy was a big-time box office star. Then later on with Tim Conway, did a couple of things, and then ended up on Three's Company. So you are in good company whenever you mention his name, and a great premise and a great idea. Now, how can people participate, and how can they help also with a donation to keep the lights burning here for generations to come?
Well, we're asking people to donate for this event, and generally to donate and become members in some cases if they're interested. And they can do that by sending a check to the East Liverpool Historical Society, which is P.O. Box 476 East Liverpool, Ohio, 43920. And I've seen some of the checks that have come in on the memo portion. They indicate that it's for Mr. Chicken. So I'm hoping I don't have another unfortunate nickname to live down, but we will see. So
going to be a great event.
That's going to be on the 22nd of October.
It'll be here before you know it. Listen, before we leave, Jennifer is going to join me in a little bit.
Yes.
Jennifer Barrett, tell me about her a little bit.
Jennifer has worked at the Museum of Ceramics for a couple of years.
With my friend Sherry Leifster, who donates a lot of her time there.
Absolutely. And very friendly, very outgoing, and active. I mean, she, let me tell you one little thing about Jennifer.
Go ahead.
When we decided to offer her a position as a trustee with the Historical Society, there are only 12 of them. And her mother said to me, she goes, "Tim, you know how she is." And
hands-on.
Subsequently, she asked me just last week, she says, "I warned you how she was." And
you're on your own.
It's
right?
a good thing. It's a good
All right,
thing.
with your wonderful dad here and your beloved mother still alive in their 9th decade, you and your brother both are attorneys, one of the smartest men I've ever met, one of the most decent, kindest people I've ever met, and I wish I would have been a little bit more like him.
He's talking about my brother.
He's actually a few years older than me, and he's much better looking, so what can I say? He is Tim Brooks, and it has to do with the water in East Liverpool. It always comes down to this great community. What does East Liverpool mean to you, sir?
It's
everything.
It's been home for 6 generations, and it's it's just endlessly fascinating to me. The stuff that pops up, buildings, people. I learned something today that I'd never heard of before.
What?
About a local person who had gone to California, and actually this guy was more from Wellsville than East Liverpool, but this guy had become one of the wealthiest men in California, and was absolutely famous in California, and now nobody knows who he was. And that happens quite a bit. Quite a bit.
I was looking at East Liverpool Historical Society in closing before we get Jennifer in here. You should really check it out and see what they have going and what went on many years ago, and how even through that test of time in which we all have our ups and downs, East Liverpool, the lights are still on, they're still doing amazing things, and there is going to be a bright future in this community for many reasons, and a lot of it has to do because of the people. Tim Brooks, many others, and you're going to meet Jennifer in just a couple of moments. So stay with us as your Pratt Pack is on the road tonight in that great community of East Liverpool, Ohio at the Thompson House. Good evening. Jennifer Barrett is here, and now it's her chance to talk about Tim Brooks, the Historical Society, and the Ghost and Mr. Chicken. Go ahead. How'd this whole thing come to be?
It all came to be because I asked Tim, I said, hey, do you think we could go down and watch the Ghost of Mr. Chicken in the Thompson House? And the first year I did, he really didn't seem all that enthusiastic about it. I said, yeah, I've seen it. It's great, but I think he looked at me like I was a little bit of a kook that I wanted to do that.
Imagine that.
Yeah. And then the second year, I asked him, and it's like, and I said, yeah, I really want to watch that down here. It's like, it looks so much like the house. It's like, it would be so fun to do that. Let's get some friends together and we could like do that type thing.
Right.
And then it just kind of pulled together after that, thinking, well, maybe we can raise some money for the Thompson House, like doing that. If we can charge or have donations for people to come in and just to, sit in here and do that. And then I got the idea. It's like, well, why don't we see if we can get Tim to spend the night down here, like Don Knotts does in the movie, and have people sponsor him to do that? And he just thought that was a wonderful idea, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you did.
Oh yeah.
He was
Yeah.
all in.
Great.
You can hear the enthusiasm in his voice.
Yeah.
But many more people already than you expected, but there's still room for more, even if you have to, add a day or two. What's the best way, and how much will it cost, and can people do it as we speak? Get out that checkbook.
Yes, we are going to be making an announcement about that in about a week, and we're going to extend it from probably the one day that it is now, because we did a save the date back in July, and we're about up to 80 people now. We can fit about 25 in here comfortably, so we're probably going to open it up for the 3-day weekend.
Nice.
And then, so they can start contacting us on Venmo. We have an account under username at Thompson-House-1876. So we can do that and accept payment that way, or they can send a check. So we just have to have a definite head count for that time, because we probably won't be able to take people to the door because we're already going to be packed at that point.
Well, the only difference between 30 years ago and today, as you can see, I like snacks, lots of snacks. So since I've been here, so what about the food? We gonna get anything to eat?
Yes. We have dinner, movie, and a tour. And our two newest trustees, we have Megan and Josh Coyle. They own Italos in Glenmore, and they have been so generous to help us with that, because you cannot have the Ghost of Mr. Chicken without having chicken. I mean, you have to have, everything's a theme, so you have to do that. And so we're getting pizza and chicken, and we're going to have popcorn and some Halloween candy, because it's the weekend before Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to watch the movie, and then Tim's going to do the tour, and then he's going to have to spend the night here with the ghost of Sadie.
Yeah, right. Listen, all I know is he will survive. If I were here,
Right.
then that's another story. It would be the front page of the East Liverpool Review, main story the following day. Rob Pratte is nowhere to be found. All right, listen, thank you so very much. And I really appreciate what you do and what you're doing with Tim, and he means the world to me. But just kind of talk a little bit in closing about why this community means so much to you.
Oh, it's been home. I mean, I was born here, raised here. I'm a Potter. Graduated '89. That just told me how old I was. All my family's here, and we're close, tight knit. And I had 4 generations that worked at Hall China, so we've got roots, you know, deep down in the soil and in the clay, I should say. So it's just home. I mean, I love it here. I'll be here.
And the Museum of Ceramics, you work with my former colleague Sherry Leifner, who's an incredible artist. She's got a law degree. I still believe one of the best broadcasters I ever worked with. She's in my top 10. Just a salt of the earth. And it really is about the people. And you mentioned Hall China. For the 20 plus years that I worked in this town, and I did a lot of sports, one of the lights that was always shining so bright when I would exit through the East End and head back to Pennsylvania were those shift workers at Hall China. And I always was so proud of what they were doing. And Homer Loughlin continuing to carry on what they do. You know, when you think of this region, it's as important the pottery industry as it was to me, the steel industry growing up.
Right.
And even though technology has evolved and things have changed, you are who you are. It's about your past, your present, to have a good future. And with what you're doing by raising money and awareness, this place will be here for generations to come. And young people who will turn into older people who will become parents and grandparents will be able to continue to tell the story.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You think they could have given me some Italos chicken or pizza or something?
Come back for the movie, you'll get some.
I know. I kind of figured that was the hook. Heading back to the home studio where we will be for the next couple of days, and of course back on the radio in a few days as well at KDK Radio. But some of the most incredible times of my life on the radio and off the radio with the great people of this region in that home of mine, the other home, East Liverpool, Ohio. It's your Pratt Pack. Good night, everyone.